be talking about what love is. But just before I get into that, I will start with a story in the Bible that sheds light on what we have been talking about in the past 2 weeks. It's like a real life story of something that happened, and where somebody thought he was in love, and eventually it was nothing like it. Okay, so I'm just going to read through that story, highlight a few lessons, use that to wrap up that conversation about what love is not, and then straight away we're going to talk about what love is. So if you're ready, you can type there in the comments, say I am ready, let's go, let's rock and roll, let's do this. And straight away I'm jumping into it. All right, so there's a story in 2 Samuel chapter 13 from verse 1 to 19. It's a story about David's children. Okay, of course, David had different wives, so he had different children from different mothers. Okay, and then there was one of his sons whose name is Ammon, or was Ammon. And then one of his half sisters, or we call it step sisters, was a beautiful lady, and he was attracted to her. So let's see what the Bible says about the story. I won't read through the whole story. I'll read some parts, I'll paraphrase some other parts, but I'll just drop, points here and there. Yes, I see you guys. You are ready and I am ready. So let's just keep going. Okay, so the Bible says in the course of time, don't forget the 2 Samuel chapter 13. In the course of time, Ammon, son of David, fell in love with Tamar, his beautiful sister, who was a sister of Absalom, another son of David. Okay, fell in love. Take note of how the story started. He fell in love with this lady. So, as at then, it wasn't strange for them to get married to themselves, right? You could get married to your half sister. It was still allowable then. All you needed to do was just go through the normal process, and it was doable. Okay, so don't cringe too much. But emphasis is on the fact that he fell in love, or so he thought. He fell in love with Tamar, who was his sister, and in verse 2 it says he became so obsessed with her. Take note of the terms, because we used some of these terms last week. He became so obsessed with her that he made himself ill. Now, do you remember when we're talking about one of the signs of infatuation? We mentioned obsession, where you fill your mind up with this person. You think that, oh, my world will crumble if I am not with her or with him. Oh, this is just, the best experience in my life. Oh, I need this girl in my life. Oh, I need this man. God, if it's not him, I will never get married again. I've heard people say that if this relationship does not work with this girl or with this guy, I'm never going to get married again, because this one is just the perfect one. This is the very one that has been sent from heaven, for me. So if it does not work, no way. You see, we talked about all those things. Infatuation. He became so obsessed with her that he made himself ill. Don't forget, we also talked about the fact that when that person is not around you or is not with you, you're not yourself, because you just want her, you just want him. See, again and again I will emphasize, don't measure love by how you feel. Don't. Those feelings can be misleading, as is always the case. That is why you go through the same circles over and over again. You see somebody, you trip for them, you want it to become a relationship because you're following those feelings. It quickly becomes a relationship still because you're following those feelings and indulging in them. You start getting romantically involved, and guess what? When the realities of life start facing both of you, you see that you were never meant for each other, and then it ends in a heartbreak. That would have been avoidable. But guess what? Nobody picks up the lessons from there, because they repeat the same process with a new person. Right now, you think the problem was just your former partner, and then you repeat the same process with a new person. You go somewhere, you see this cute guy, you trip for him, you position yourself so that he notices you. Of course, he notices you and makes his advance, asks you out. You guys start talking, you guys start, bonding and feeling really cool. And then, before you know it again, you tell yourself it's love. You see, the same pattern, the same experiences, the same things, no lessons learned. Why? Because you thought the problem was from the other person. Okay, you thought he was just a terrible guy, or she's just a useless girl. Don't mind that girl. Because you always think the other person is the problem, so you repeat the process again. Now you repeat that process, fall in love again with this new person, and then before you know it, it's taking the same circle. You know, there are good days, there are nice days, there are romantic days, you know, and before long, romance becomes the center of that relationship. And then when the real issues of life start coming up, there's no forgiveness, there's no tolerance, there's no understanding. You guys are not mentally compatible. The person has such bad behaviors. Everything starts playing out, and guess what? You guys cannot take it any longer, and you break up yet again. But guess what? Lessons are not learned yet, so you repeat this process with the next person. Why? Because you have always defined love as what you felt. Okay, so I was reading from the Bible, and let me go back to that story. So Ammon became obsessed with her to the extent that he became ill. He couldn't process anything again. All his thoughts, his entire mind, his entire heart, his entire day was captivated by this lady he believed he was in love with. And then there was even something that was emphasized there in the Bible in verse 2. The Bible says she was a virgin, so it seemed impossible for him to do anything with her. There's a very subtle point there that I want to bring out. You see, because she had not been there before, because she had not gone down that path before, it was more difficult for him to even process that thought. So the Bible says that it seemed impossible for him to do anything with her. So guess what? If it was a case where she was already a loose woman, it was going to be very easy for him to just jump at her and just start devouring. Okay, and I'm saying this just to make a reference to the fact that, you see, as a young lady, you need to know that guys, I don't know how to put this easier. Guys tend to know the kind of ladies they can get down with easily. They know that this one, forget. That guy again, that Ross guy, forget, she go creep. And then they shoot their shot, and then they go all out. Okay? From the way they perceive you, they know what kind of things to try with you. Okay? So sometimes they try one or two moves, and of course, you take the bait, and then they go all out. So my point is, because he saw that she wasn't someone who had slept with a man before, it was difficult for him to proceed with his terrible thoughts. But nevertheless, you see, that's what infatuation does, because it is an intense desire, that lust, you know, it's an intense desire. It drives you until you are sexually involved with this person. You are not calming down, and then all your motivation, all your effort starts going in that direction. Now what happens? It got to the point where he called one of his guys, you know, of course, you know, they noticed that, oh boy, what's happening to you now? Why are you not responding to anything? You're just sick here, just all by yourself, and you know, what's all this? And the guy said, man, there's this babe I'm tripping for, but I can't get her. I don't know what to do, man. She just scatter my head. I can't concentrate anymore. I'm sure many of you have been in that position where there is a girl or a guy in your mind to the point where you cannot concentrate anymore. You can't focus. In your mind, this is love. This love is just killing me. Oh my God. I can't even think straight, man. This girl, you know. See, these are pointers. When you find yourself in those situations, please tell yourself that no. Just tell yourself no, stop it. You can control this. You can get out of this. You know, tell yourself that, because you're setting yourself up for trouble. You're setting yourself up for regrets, for things that are not sustainable. And at the end of the day, you start feeling awkward, you start feeling bad. Sometimes it affects your self-esteem, sometimes it affects your confidence, it affects your relationship or your fellowship with God. You know, it just affects so many things. Why? Because you neglected the signals. Okay, so when you start feeling obsessed like that, please, that's the time to put yourself in check. Draw back from everything that is fueling that thought, and begin to tell yourself, no, this is not right. This is not right. I have control over myself. I have control over my emotions, and I don't have to do what my emotions want me to do. Don't forget that you cannot be led by your feelings. As a matter of fact, you understand this principle in every other respect. Okay, but when it comes to matters of of the heart. This is where you now believe that your feelings should lead you. But those mornings when you don't feel like going to work, that Monday morning, if you're living in Lagos, you know what Monday morning is. Where you have to get up extra early so that you beat the traffic. You don't feel like going to work, but guess what? You get up and you jump into the bathroom and you prepare for that work. Sometimes all through the drive, all through the journey, you are not happy, but you are going there. You see, why didn't you allow your feelings dictate what you were going to do? All right? It's end of month and you need to submit a report. You need to get ready for MPR, for your DQA, whatever it is that you need to, report and, weekly reports and all of those things. You don't feel like it. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many people really enjoy preparing reports, because personally, it was one of the things that was always a challenge to me. I mean, I can do the work, I can do everything, but when you tell me start working on the report, it's just like, oh my God. But guess what? I don't like it, I don't feel like it, but I have to do it. Okay? So you see, in several other respects, we know that we don't go with our feelings. But when it has to do with this one that tickles your emotion and your sexual appetite, you believe that that is the point to endorse your feeling as your leader. No, that is wrong. Don't follow decisions based on emotions. You would crash and you would regret it. Trust me. Whatever it is, okay? If you jump into a business deal just out of overexcitement, you will miss some fine details and you will regret it. Do you understand? So it's not just in this area of love. Feelings are not meant to be your leader. They're not meant to give you direction. No, you are meant to control and regulate those feelings and use them for your purpose, not follow the feelings to where it is leading you to. I hope you get that. Anyway, to jump back to the story, he spoke to his guy, and his guy told him, man, why are you complaining? It's an easy thing now. Just take permission from your father. Tell him that you want this girl to come over and take care of you. You're not feeling fine. And that's all. You will have her to yourself. And the guy thought about it. Wow, that's cool. He went on. He asked David, can you send my sister to come and take care of me? I'm not feeling fine. No, let her come and cook for me. Let her come and serve me. And of course, family. He released his daughter. Okay, please go and take care of your brother. Go over to his living chambers, okay, and just take care of him. He's not feeling good, And Tamar went innocently. But guess what? When it was time for him to serve her, he sent everybody out of the room. Now, don't forget, I had said before that when a guy starts looking for seclusion, he just wants you and him to be alone. I mean, that should be a red flag for you. It should drive up your antenna. Like, hey, where is this going to? Okay, you should know. When he starts sending everybody, he wants to just be alone with you, come to my house, or I come to your house, or let's meet at the hotel, or let's go somewhere, let's meet at the dark, hang out in some kind of funny places where there's nobody seeing you. It should start sending signals to you. You should be wary of those kind of things. Why? Because you know that there is something driving this guy, and if you follow him, you might not like where it is going to. All right. Now, every time I speak like this, I'm not just speaking to one gender, because the truth is, these feelings most times are even are both ways, for both male and female. Okay. So I just use some examples. Sometimes I tend to focus on the guys. I'm a guy, maybe that's why. All right, so I tend to focus on the guys, but generally what I'm saying applies both ways. Sometimes it's the men making the moves, sometimes it's the women making the moves, sometimes it's the men, throwing themselves out on the ladies, sometimes it's the ladies throwing themselves out on the men, sometimes it's the men who want sex, sometimes it's the women who want the sex, they're the ones harassing the men, and even calling them names and making them feel less of themselves because they're not getting down with them. All right, so but whatever the case, identify the one that speaks to you or the one you can relate to it. And if you find yourself in any of these qualities I'm describing that are not ideal, please start working on the change. Anyway, back to the story. So the girl came in, Ammon chased everybody out of the room, and then this is the person you have been in love with, okay? And then he grabbed her and says, hey, baby girl, you are my sickness, so it's not malaria. Now you are the thinker of why I fall sick. You're the one who has filled my brain, and you're the one I want. And then she started begging him. Like, she tried to be reasonable with him. She tried to tell him, no, you're my brother, don't do this. Don't force me into such a thing. It can't be heard. It's an abomination. You cannot rape me. If you want to get married to me, it's easy. Just take permission and just go through the normal process and I will be yours. But guess what? In verse 14, the Bible says he refused to listen to her. He refused to listen to her. This is one of the signals that you are operating with infatuation, because infatuation and lust and all this obsession, because at that point you cannot even think and feel for the person that is the object of your infatuation. She's telling you, I don't want to do this, and you insist, no, you must, we must go there. She's saying, no, I don't want to. But because you're so consumed by that devilish desire, okay, you insist, you don't care about what she's saying, you refuse anything she's saying, you refuse to listen to her, and then in this case, he had his way with her. Okay. Now, many people find this story plays out every day. Plays out every day. As a young lady, you're talking to him, you're giving him ideas, you're giving him suggestions, the things that are important to you, the things what you don't want to do, and he's not listening. Some guys even victimize the ladies when they tell them they don't want to be sexually involved. Some ladies do the same to the guy. He tells you he doesn't want to be sexually involved. You start saying all sorts. You start saying, hey, maybe this guy is gay. Maybe he doesn't do women. Maybe he's a Jew man. Maybe he's just, what kind of man are you? They start throwing all those kind of banters at them just so that you get them to where you are. When people do that, it's a clear case of selfishness. It's a clear case of infatuation. It's a clear case of lust. Okay, they don't really care about you, no matter how they tend to garnish it as love. Okay, but it is not anything like that. Let me quickly end this story so that I jump into the other things for today. Okay, so at the end of the day, he had his way with her. The Bible says he raped her, and then just after that, the next verse in 15 says, then Ammon hated her with intense hatred. Now, that's supposed to be surprising, because this was the same person that you were madly in love with. Just a while ago, you couldn't do anything. You were basically sick, because you were in love with somebody. Now you've had your way with her, and then suddenly that thing that was supposed to be love now becomes hate. You see why I told you cannot go with your feelings? This is how feelings operate. 1 minute it's here, the next minute it's there. The minute that gratification, that desire is gratified, all of the excitement disappears. The Bible says that a man who is satisfied, who is full, he even rejects honey, he loves honey. But to the hungry person, even what is bitter becomes sweet. Why am I making reference to that? When you desired her, when you were pursuing after her, you will do anything to get her, because you're infatuated with her. The moment you have gotten her and you have gotten all you want, you are full. You begin to detest even that thing that was sweet to you before. That's exactly what happened now. That is why many relationships crash, because it was never how do I put it now? It was based on the wrong foundations. There was never a long term in view. There was never a future there. Okay, but they are consumed with the passion of the moment, that desire of the moment. I want her and I want her now. I want him and I want him now. Oh my God, I can't think straight. Oh my God, I can't sleep. Look at him. Look at his lips. Look at his build. Oh my God. You just start creating those ideas and those pictures in your mind. You start fantasizing. That is why a lot of people are unstable. And don't forget, I said this is part of the foundations for cheating. When you have not been able to discipline your sexual urges and sexual desires, even as a single person, when you get married to the most beautiful girl in the world, guess what? Those desires are still there. You have not dealt with them. They would play up again, and you would find yourself compromising. Not because you don't love your spouse, but because you have not disciplined yourself enough to, as the Bible says, to put to death the passions of the flesh. Okay, to subdue them. All right. So what happened? What he was calling love suddenly became hate. Such a strong hatred that he told her to get up and get out. You see, 1 minute she was sweet, the next minute she was a bitter pill. Why? Because he had gratified that infatuation. So young ladies, don't be moved when he's all about, he's buying this, he's making all the effort, he's calling you morning, afternoon, night. Don't let those things get into your head. He may just be typically in his hunter mode. He's searching. Until he gets you, he won't rest. But guess what? When the hunter gets the prey, when he gets his game, he takes it back, and what does he do? He goes back out there hunting. Don't be moved when he's doing all of these things he's doing. Those are the times to delay sexual gratification and have conversations. Those are the times to ask him questions. This is another reason many relationships suffer, because the time you should have been discussing, you were smooshing, you were having sex, you were getting sexually involved. And when you start doing that, you are confusing yourself because you no longer see things as it should be. Take all those time to discuss, ask important questions. If you are doing this, you will find more reasons why or not that relationship should not continue. But guess what? All the time you should use to discuss, all the time you should evaluate those red flags, you don't do that. Why? Because you're busy getting romantically involved. Please take note. You can control this. You can. We'll soon start looking at the qualities of love, and one of the things you will see is self-control. That is why I sharply cancel any definition of love that defines it as something that takes over you and you cannot control it. No, because if it is love, there is self-control in it. Alright? So, it got so bad, he told the lady he had just slept with to get up and get out. And even when she wasn't going to go, he called his personal servant and said, you know what, get this girl out of here, throw her outside and lock the door. How would you feel as a lady? But that is exactly what happens when you allow your feelings to lead you. Alright? Of course, that story did not have a good ending, because later, Absalom, who was Tamar's brother, he avenged what Ammon did, and he murdered Ammon. Okay, so my point is, please, I just decided to bring this out. There are several stories I can show you from scripture warning against, just going after the flesh or going after those desires. They are misleading. Okay, so that was just one example I thought to share, to buttress all the points that we were looking at in the past couple of weeks. Now, if you look at the common denominator, okay, in all of those qualities we looked at last week, when we talked about infatuation, lust, obsession, codependency, the common denominators in all of those things are, one, the fact that they are feelings based, they are emotions based. Yeah, someone says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Yes, that is true. Okay, it's a real experience, but guess what? You can strengthen your spirit. I will come to all these things later when I'm talking about how to control yourself. Okay, so there is hope. You can strengthen yourself. You can have the resolve. You can make up your mind. One thing about overcoming temptation is that you make up your mind to overcome it even before you face it. It's almost the same thing as money. You make up your mind what to do with money before you have the money. If not, once it comes, it takes over your decision process. It just tells you what it wants. All right. So you can strengthen your spirit and subdue the flesh. Okay. But what was I saying? The common denominators in all these things we looked at. One, they are all based on your emotions. They are based on feelings. Okay. What's the second thing? They are all self-gratifying. They are self-centered. I want you for me. I want you because you're from a rich family. You can probably sponsor my masters. I want to do my masters abroad. I want to relocate. I want to use fine gadgets. I want to, all you're seeing is what you want. Okay? And I tell people one of the first rules for a relationship is don't get into a relationship because of what you can get out of it or what you can get out of the partner. That's a clear sign that it's not love. You're being selfish. Anytime you're being selfish, you are not walking in love. I say it again. Anytime you're being selfish, you are not walking in love. So when we tell people to say why they love their partners or why they want to get into a relationship with a particular person, and all you start hearing them say is because he will do this for me, he will do that for me, I like the way he does this, I like the way she does that, and everything is just about what they will get out of that relationship. Most often than not, that relationship is not going to be a happy one. Why? Because you have contracted your happiness to another human being who does not have the ability to even make himself happy, talk less of making you happy. When you contract your happiness to any other person, you are bound to be unhappy, to be depressed. Why? Because nobody can fill that void. It's between you and God. Your happiness, your fulfillment is not tied to anybody. It's between you and God. And why am I saying you? Because it's from when you discover who you are that you can start walking in the path of your calling or your purpose or your assignment and your fulfillment. Okay, it starts with you. It's not somebody else. People can be there to teach you, to guide you, okay, but they are not the ones who are going to help you to be fulfilled. Your fulfillment in life is not tied to anybody. It is you, and God. All right, so when you are making relationship goals based on what you will get out of it, please hear this from me in advance. You are not going to benefit from that relationship. You may enjoy it, but it will be short-lived. Why? Because the foundation is very, very shaky, and it will give way when the pressure starts coming. Okay, so please take note of this. Don't be selfish. Don't be self-centered. Another thing about all of these things we describe is that they are prone to disappointment. Why? Disappointment sets in when your expectations are no longer being met. Week 1, he was fantastic. Week 2, he was fantastic. In your mind, you have entered the promised land. Sorry. By week 3, the guy tells you, man, I can't sustain it. I can't send you money. I'm busy. I can't call you. I can't check on you. Why? Because he has gotten what he wants. Once he slept with you, that is the biggest, that's the most special part of you. And once you have given that out already, there is nothing more he's looking for. If there's any other thing he wants, if he enjoys you so well, then he just does his best to maintain that relationship so that for as long as he has you, he can have as much of that sex that he enjoys. Okay, but that is what it is based on. Now, a few people are lucky that sometimes some of those things translate into true friendship and become marriage and become successful. Some people are lucky that happens, but many times, take it from me, I'm a counselor. I speak with people almost every day. Many times it comes crashing. Even when they eventually get married, many times it comes crashing. It's either it's crashing or they are faced with so much challenges that they can't even help themselves. Okay, so it leaves you disappointment. Okay, the enjoyable moment are short-lived. Okay, they don't last a long time, and then it leaves you in self-doubt because many times you start thinking you have a problem. I've spoken to people severally who say I just think I am the problem. I just think there's something wrong with me. My relationships don't seem to last. Why do I keep attracting the wrong people? You start thinking you have a problem. The only thing that you have is a lack of understanding of what love is, and that is what these series are about. That is what the Love Code with Maisie is about. We will keep sharing and sharing and sharing until everyone hears it. We'll keep shouting it out on the rooftop. We'll keep screaming it. We'll keep driving it down until people start hearing it and start experiencing a transformation in their relationship. Feelings and emotions are not love. They are not love. They are selfish. They are not love. Okay? I'm seeing that there's a question there. I will take it. Yeah, that there are things we should look out for as somebody who's searching. Yes, in our previous series, we talked about what kind of things you should look out for. You may want to do well to look for the teachings we did in December last year and even in January where we talked about maximizing singleness. You will see a lot of those things we said you should look out for. Okay, they are more than external. They are more than outlook. They are more than the beauty and the glamour you see outside. Don't forget that when you're setting a trap you usually disguise that trap as something attractive. Don't you forget that. So when you're going after anything that is attractive, tell yourself, what if it could just be a trap? Because when you're setting a trap, you always make it attractive to get the object, or whatever it is you want to get. Okay, so don't look only on the outward. We talked a lot about these things, so I won't go through it just now, but you can refer to those past teachings and you will find it. Okay, yeah. So you see, when your foundation is wrong, everything you build on it will be wrong. It may look right for a while, but then you even discover you're not at peace in this relationship. You're not comfortable. You're just worried. You see, and this is another thing that happens to people. Because you've had some of these negative experiences so much, right? When you now see somebody who fits the profile of what you want, when you now see that ideal man or that ideal woman, what happens? You become scared. Because you don't want a repeat of the past failures. But guess what? If you have not addressed the foundation, you may have a repeat. However, you try to run away from it. And do you even know that sometimes by trying to avoid certain things, you run into them, especially when you constantly fill up your mind with those things. You see, what happens is that what you're thinking about most of the time, you are attracting it into your life, whether it's positive or it's negative. Okay, so when you're hearing people say things like, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick, so long as the object of that thought is sickness, you are attracting it into your life. So long as every time you keep majoring on it, if you know you don't want to be sick, then don't say, I don't want to be sick. Say rather, I am healthy. I live a healthy life. I'm living life to its full. Do you understand? You shift your mind's focus from the negative to the positive. All right. So why am I saying this? Because it is possible for you to educate your brain, educate your mind away from those negative or those vices or those qualities you thought were love that have failed you so far. All right. It is possible to educate the mind, and that's what you're doing by joining a session like this. You are educating your mind. All right, you're throwing lights in. And for every light that comes in, some measure of darkness goes out. You are educating yourself. Okay. Now, someone says, "What do you do when you're tired of starting new relationship?" That's a very good question. When you're tired of starting new relationships, then stay by yourself. That is the time to learn about who you are, about your purpose, about what God has placed you on this earth for, about what things you can do with yourself, how you can be a blessing to mankind, to humanity, how you can give back to society. That is the time for you to stay and find yourself. Let me tell you, a lot of people don't know that there is such a thing as being single, eligible, yet not searching. Because at that time, you are not thinking of anybody. The focus is you. You're trying to grow yourself. You're trying to be busy. You're trying to birth a vision. You're trying to give birth to something. You're trying to find expression. There's a lot going on your inside. At that point, that's not when you are looking for a spouse. But guess what? When you stay focused on your assignment, in the fullness of time, your spouse will show up. Irrespective of how old you are. Maybe people are telling you that time is going, or you're getting old, or don't be moved. Stay focused. Don't forget that God brought Eve to Adam after putting him to sleep. And in one of our sessions, we said that a lot of people refuse to rest, refuse to calm down. They think it is by searching, jumping up and down. No, I must marry this year. No. Calm down. You are a child of God if you believe in Jesus Christ. God's got your back. Do you understand what I'm saying? He can work it out for you. Time is fast spent out. I've shared stories upon stories. In the most unlikely places, at the most unlikely times, people run into their spouses. Do you understand? So, let me just move on for time's sake. All right. So if you're tired of starting new relationships, relax. Start no more. Focus on yourself. Be busy. You will discover it will happen easily. Okay. Now let me move on. So I've said that you can educate your brain. You can now retrain yourself to to learn the right way to go about this. Okay, there is a right way. Even if you started getting into relationships from age 12, even if you have dated like 20 people, and whatever your experience is, there is a right way. There is a day to start afresh, and today might just be that day for somebody here. All right, so what then is love? After all of these that I have said, one of the things you would have heard me say repeatedly is that love isn't selfish. So if all that is in your mind is what you can get and what that person can do for you, then it is not love. Let me read a quote by a thought leader, a man by the name Krishnamurti. I used to listen to some of his sessions then. He said, a mind that is self-concerned with its own ambitions, greed, fears, guilt, suffering. He says such a mind has no capacity to love. All right. He also said something. He said loving is more important than being loved. Okay. Now, that's further buttressing my point that when we're speaking about love, the emphasis is not you. The emphasis rather is on the other person. So, in its purest form, I will read a couple of definitions that buttress the same point. What is love? What is love? In its purest form, love is a decision based on a commitment to add value to someone else's life for the rest of your life, even if you don't get a thank you for it. I'll say it again. Love is a decision based on a commitment to add value to someone's life for the rest of your life, even if you don't get a thank you for it. Now that's going to look strange to somebody, like, what's the point loving if I'm not getting anything back? But that's what we're trying to teach you. That until you learn how to love in its purest form, you will not learn how to love in a relationship. Until you learn how to apply love the way it is meant to be, you would not know how to do it in your relationship. That's what we're saying. Okay? It's a decision. It's a decision. In other words, I choose who I love. I don't fall in love. I decide to love. Even if I'm falling in love with the person I have decided to love. After I made the decision and it was worth it and it is working, it is growing, that's when I can throw myself and go and fall inside the love. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I don't fall in love from the beginning. No, I decide to love. And I remember one time I was speaking with a lady I was interested in then before I got married. Apparently she wasn't ready. She didn't want a relationship at that time, and she told me, I just feel like if I tell you what's really on my mind, I'm gonna hurt you. You're not gonna be able to eat because we have been close friends already. I don't want to hurt your feelings, blah blah blah. I said, how do you mean hurt my feelings? She said, because if I turn you down, maybe you're not gonna eat and stuff like that. And I laughed and I said, you don't know me. And I asked her clearly, have I told you that I love you? I'm very conscious about this thing. If you turn me down, no problem. I will bounce. I will move on. I will just tell myself she wasn't for me. But I'm not going to be depressed. No. I'm not going to lose my me. I not chop food because me. You don't know me. I eat. Do you understand? I'm not going to lose my meal because you say you don't want to get in a relationship with me. I will just tell myself that, okay, she's not the one for me, and I will move on. And that was the case. So I explained it to her. When I told her, have you ever heard me say to you that I love you before? She was wondering, really? Yeah. It's deliberate. I don't throw love up and down because I'm very deliberate about my love. Okay, so I told her, I said, no, don't worry. If it's not going to work, not a problem. I won't be hurt. I will give you time. And I waited for her for over 1 year. All right. During that period, I didn't see anybody. But I always told her that when I move on, I move on. Why? Because for me, it's a decision. It's not a feeling that happens to me. I'm the one who decides. I hope somebody's understanding me. The things I'm sharing with you, these same things I'm teaching now, as a teenager, over how many years ago we have taught these things. My point is, this is not new knowledge. This is something that I have tested, and it's the principles I have lived my life on. And I've seen several people who practice this too. And our relationships are just sweet. My relationship was flawless. I'm not trying to sound flawless. Maybe one day if there's need, I'll share certain things with you. Flawless. My marriage is sweet, it's blissful. It's not by chance. It's not by chance. It's deliberate. Alright? So, some people say, how can you say it's a decision? What if you're not feeling attracted to the person? That's why I tell people, this thing you're calling attraction, take it easy. There are certain people you think are not attractive, but when you start relating with them, you will see how much value coming from them, and you yourself will even be attracted to them. But guess what? Initially you thought they were not attractive. Why? Because they were not your external spec. So you see, many people have lost their husbands or their wives because they were looking for external qualities first, when all they needed to do was interact with this person for a while, show genuine love towards this person, just show kindness, show care, just be a loving person, okay? And then along the line, you discover that this person you thought you were not attracted to, that attraction would come. Okay? Somebody said, but can you approach a lady without feeling any emotion at all? Of course you can. Oh yes. Let me tell you. Oh yes. Yes, you can. With all of this I'm saying, that is what I'm explaining. You don't need emotion. If you see somebody who has qualities that you think you like, yes, you can commence the conversation with the person. You can approach them and start talking to them. But guess what? In that conversation, you are keeping your mind open, because you are not conversing to feed your lust or your infatuation. You're having that conversation to see what kind of person is this. Is this person deserving of my love? Some of you place no value on your love, so you just throw yourselves everywhere. Is this person deserving of me? That's what your conversation is about. And you have a couple of hangouts, you're talking with them, you're checking things out. Along the line, you're seeing qualities and you're asking yourself, can I give this a chance, or can I not, or should I not? And guess what? When you see what you don't want, you back down and you keep it as a normal friendship. You don't have to kiss her. You don't have to smoosh her. You don't have to have sex with her. No. Just from conversations, you see that this is not my kind of person. I'm not feeling her spirit. I'm not feeling her. And it's not external. So yes, you can approach somebody even if there is no feeling at all. Yes. Don't think it is feeling that will sustain your marriage. It's not feeling. No. Many times you have to do things even though you don't feel like doing them. You would have to. That's marriage. That's why it's tough. And that is why a lot of people find it hard when they thought that I would always be feeling fly. No, you will not always be feeling this way. Sometimes you wake up with irritation. You'll be irritated at your spouse. But since you have taught yourself that you should always gratify your feelings, because you are irritated, you will take it out on your spouse. You talk to him anyhow. You talk to her anyhow. And guess what? You don't have the monopoly of madness. So you talk to them like that because they too are like you, who have not learned how to control their feelings. You dish the venom to them. They return it to you. Before you know, the whole place is hot. And everybody's quarreling. And there's anger, emotions, your negative emotions have filled up the room. There is, sometimes it turns to like hate. You're wondering, what am I doing with this guy? But you thought it was love at the beginning. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So don't let feelings, you cannot be ruled by feelings. There are times when you'll be irritated by your spouse, but guess what? In love, you would maintain the same disposition you would towards him or her as you would when they're making you happy. Okay? Another definition of love. Love is a decision, again, to commit to meet the needs of someone else. Now, I got these definitions from different people, okay? So it's not just the same thing I'm trying to say in different words, but, it is what it is. A decision to commit to meet the needs of someone else without expecting anything in return. You see, that clause sometimes makes it difficult for people. How can you say without expecting anything in return? It is because you always expect something in return that makes you only show love, as it were, kindness and acceptance to certain people who you think you can benefit from. So guess what? There are many people who will see somebody with a physical challenge and they will avoid the person like the person is plague. That's not fair. That's a human being. That's somebody who has already have been probably experiencing some rejection all their lives, and now they're meeting you. It is time for you to show them love, to show them acceptance. But guess what? Because you don't see what you can get from this person, you push them aside. You just look over them and move on. You see why? Because many times what you're thinking of, the basis for your friendships and conversations with people, is strictly what you can get out of it. And if the person cannot add any value to you, you just tell yourself, I have no business with this person. But what you should actually do is you should be able to extend love. Don't worry, I'll break down the qualities of love and I'll make it more practical. Okay? Another definition said love is genuinely caring for someone without desiring a reciprocation from the person. And don't forget, is this expectation of the way I'm doing for you, also do it for me. Is that expectation that causes heartbreak? Okay? And a lot of people have this challenge. People who are very devoted, who are kind-hearted, they go out of their way, they bend over backwards, they always do things to help other people, meet other people at the point of their need, but guess what? When they are in need, the same people that they have been reaching out to turn their backs on them and they are disappointed. Don't be disappointed. Why are you disappointed? Because you thought that the fact that I have been doing this for you means that you too should do it back to me. Yes, they say one good turn deserves another. Yes, but you don't have control over anybody. You don't have control over anybody. Not everybody is as generous as you think. Okay, so the fact that you are generous does not mean that the world will be generous back to you when you want them to, how you want them to. No, it might not play out that way. God will find a way to compensate you and reward your generosity, all right? But don't think that it is the same people you give to that would always give back to you. Don't think it is the same people you help that would always help you back. No, that would be the beginning of frustration. Okay? So when you genuinely care about somebody, what it means is that you are thinking about them, but not just about what they can do for you or what you can get out of them, but you're thinking of what you can do for them. You're thinking of how you can make them better. You're thinking of how they can be better versions of themselves. You're thinking of what you can do to improve this person. You're thinking of what you can do to preserve this person, to make this person better off than you met them. Yes, you are thinking about them, but it's not just about what you can get, but what you can give to them. But guess the good thing, whenever you extend love, you are preparing yourself. You are sowing seeds that will generate, that will what's the word now? That will germinate, that will grow, and you will reap the fruit of those seeds of love you're sharing. Okay, I would narrow it down as we continue in the coming weeks, because I can see the time is fast spent. I will narrow it down to how you can extend these acts of love towards your spouse, what it means to be in a love relationship. I will talk about it also generally in relating with everybody. Okay, I will also talk about it from scriptures about the God kind of love, which is what I'm explaining right now. Okay, don't worry, we have a lot of time, and every week we'll just take it a step deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. Finally, love is the manifestation of the inherent nature of God. Yes. When you look at what love is, many of the qualities are alien to the natural man. In other words, he cannot fulfill them by himself. This flesh, this you, this external you, there are many things you would love to do that are really good stuff. There are many great qualities you would love to exude, but you are limited by your weakness in the flesh. Okay, but we will get into some of all of that. Love is the manifestation of the inherent nature of God, and little wonder that in 1 John 4:7-8, in verse 8, the Bible says, God is love. It says, dear friends, let us love one another. Why? Because love is of God, and everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. It says, he who does not love does not know God. Why? Because God is love. God is love. Okay? And I will end today running through some of the qualities of love. What are the qualities? Well, we're saying that love is not selfish, what do we mean? I will run through some of the qualities. I can't take all of them now, so I'll stop somewhere and continue from here next week. But take note, from this point on, you don't want to miss any of these sessions, because for the next 3 to 4 weeks, we will still be on this conversation, and we're going to touch different areas of it. At the end of the day, you will see how it all ties up together. Okay, in 1 Corinthians 13 from verse 4, it begins to explain what love is. Okay, it says love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, is not jealous, love is not boastful, it is not proud. Okay, it does not dishonor others, it is not rude. Okay, it is not self-seeking, it does not demand its own way, it is not easily angered, it is not irritable, it doesn't keep record of wrongs, it does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth, it does not rejoice about injustices, but rejoices whenever the truth wins, as how another version puts it. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, it endures every circumstance. And then lastly, it says love never fails. I will run through all of these and take time to break it down, and you will see how it applies to your relationship, how it applies to your family members, to your friends. The Greek scholars broke love down into different types of love: the filial, the storge, or some people call it sterego, the eros, and then agape. Okay, some people have taken it further to explain some other forms of love, but I will break down all of these. You will see how these qualities that describe God's love, you will see how that this is the ideal model, and how you can apply it in your relationship with people around you, and you will have a beautiful life. When you have learned how to appropriate this love in its purest form, you would also learn how to enjoy it in your relationship. Why? Because love is bigger than what you feel. It's bigger than your sexual desire. It's bigger than your romantic urge. Okay? It's bigger than all of that. It is a full package, and it can help you have a beautiful and impactful life everywhere you go. All right? I hope this has been a good use of your time. I'll have to stop now for time's sake. All right, but don't forget that we are delving deep into all of these qualities I just read. We'll take them piece by piece and explain how you can apply them, explain what they mean and how it applies in your life. Okay, and then somewhere down the line, I will also talk about the love of the Father. This is going to be so beautiful, because a lot of people never experience true love from their families, from their parents, from their father. A lot of people grew up without having a father, so there's a deficit somewhere. They don't know what that love is, and trust me, in one way or the other, it affects how many people turn out in life, how they it affects everything, how they pursue their dreams, how they relate to people, how they see the world. It just affects so many things. Why? Because a fundamental void called the Father's love was missing. Okay, I would share all of this, and trust me, you would be blessed, you would learn a lot, and you would find your life taking a new shape. Why? Because love is that powerful. And don't forget, you can retrain your mind. Whatever you thought was love before, you can eliminate those thoughts and replace with new ones, and you will see the impact it will have on your everyday life. All right, thank you so much, and we'll stop there for today.